Sunday morning, and it's Terence here, and I'm going to continue the messages that we've had about transformation. We've had a few messages already about transformation, and this is my take on this. And today I'm going to talk about Jesus, the transformational servant leader. It's a great topic. I mean, it's really interesting, this topic about servant leadership, transformational leadership. It's fascinating. Now, if you don't think you're a leader, if you're someone watching, well, I'm not a leader, so I'm going to turn off. Please, please, please don't. Just give me 1 second to explain to you why it matters to you. Everybody is a leader some way, shape or form. You may not have a leadership title. That's irrelevant. But you may have a leadership title at work. You may be a manager or a team leader, whatever. You may be a leader in the church. You could be a life group leader. Something of that nature. You could be a parent. If you're a parent, you're definitely a leader, 100%. You could be the son or daughter of someone, so you're a leader. You might know somebody. You might have met somebody once in the street. For the word leader, also think of the word influencer. Because we're all influencers, aren't we? We all rub shoulders with people all the time, every day, and we leave a little bit of us with them. So please bear with me. This message is for you if you are alive. Because if you are alive, all of us are leaders in some way, shape or form. A quick 2 daft examples of how we can influence people for good or bad in my own life. And I will leave a bit of legacy behind. So on one of these, I'm driving through where I live a few weeks ago, and I'm going 40 mile. It's 40 mile an hour limit, dropping down to a 30 because his house is there. And I dropped my speed down to 30 miles an hour. But I'm driving a car that's a bit noisy, and it looks like it might be going fast. So there's a guy on the pavement. Obviously, he probably lives down there. Maybe sick of people driving fast through the village. So he puts his fingers up, puts 3 fingers up, 3 fingers, not 2, and he's telling me it's a 30 mile an hour limit. So that was like a millisecond interaction. I was really annoyed. To be honest, first of all, I didn't know what he meant. I'm like, what's his game? And then as I drove past him, I realised he was telling me to slow down. I'm like, slow down? What? I was really, really annoyed. I was being chastised by a guy that I don't even know. He influenced me. I'm not saying he led me, but he influenced me in that one moment. And even now, I'm annoyed by it. And then again, a few years ago, on Facebook, what we don't always know is who's looking at us. At the end of the day, we sometimes misunderstand or misinterpret how much of an influence we are to the people around us, and how much they do remember about us, how much they notice us. Particularly with things like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that. It's very easy to get an understanding about where people are coming from without digging too deep or stalking too much, or whatever you want to call it. A while ago, someone created a Facebook group called Brook School, so I joined it because that's the school I went to. Been knocked down now. Once I left, they knew they couldn't get anybody any better. Anyway, a couple of lads from my year put on there, he left in 1985, which I did, 35 years ago. I know it's incredible, but it's true. If you left in 1985, tell us a bit about yourself or something like that. So loads of people did, and some of the people I recognised, some of the people I didn't. And then I did. I put something like, hi, good to see so many familiar faces on here, something like that. Anyway, these 2 guys got back to me real quick, the same thread, nice responses, but the responses absolutely amazed me. Now these 2 guys, one of them, I can't remember him. I can't remember him at all. I have no knowledge of this guy. Other people seem to remember him. I don't know him. The other guy I do remember, but we weren't particularly friends or enemies. It's just a guy that I remember from school. So that guy says to me, oh yeah, I remember you, Terence Clark. Your dad had such and such a business, which he did. How this guy knew that, I don't know, but he did know that about me 35 years on. The other guy said, hi Terence, weren't you the Christian? I was like amazed. I was quite pleased. I was amazed. I wasn't a great Christian at school. I don't think my candle lit was particularly bright. But obviously, 35 years on, this guy on Facebook has said that because he remembers that from what happened when I was 15. You mustn't underestimate the influence you have on the people around you. It is considerable. But also you must underestimate the influence they have on you. So, what is a leader? I'm going to use the word leader most of the time rather than someone that influencers. Although, as I said, if you're happier using that word influence, then please use that. But leaders take others from one place to another. They move people from one place to another in various different ways. Leaders motivate, they empathize, they understand, they help, they connect, they develop. They do all these things. Now, of course, there are good leaders and there are bad leaders. And there are good people who are bad leaders and there are bad people that are good leaders. History tells us that, doesn't it? We can think of people in history, Adolf Hitler, who was clearly a very great leader, but was he a great man? Was he a good man? So just being a good leader does not make you a good person, not at all. But what I am saying is we need to recognise that we all need to be leaders. Now, over recent years, the leadership thing has developed a lot of momentum with leadership gurus like Simon Sinek and John Maxwell and Tony Robbins and Jim Collins and many, many more. And these men and women are very knowledgeable about leadership. They've written books on it and they've developed theories about it. And one of these theories is transformational versus transactional leadership. And I just really like it as a concept. So a transactional leader is someone that basically sees you as a sort of a servant or a slave or an employee that they pay to do something. So I'm going to pay you £1 and I own you for the day and I need you to build me that wall or whatever it is you're doing for them. They don't want to know about you. They don't care about you. They're not trying to develop you. They're not trying to make you a better person. They just want you to do what they tell you to do. So it's a transaction. It's out of date. It's not how people are managed nowadays, or at least in the main it's not. Unfortunately, in some places. Now, a transformational leader is someone that actually does want to know you. They do care about you. They do care about those interactions. A transformational leader wants to transform you to be a better version of yourself. A better version, a better at building a wall, if that's what you do for them, but also just generally develop you into a better person. They want to transform you, take you from one place to another. Now, I really like it when modern thinking mimics the Bible. It really helps me to think, you know what, the Bible's an amazing book because it was written by a diverse amount of people 2,000 years ago, before computers, before all this wonderful stuff we've got today, and yet it makes sense so much that these gurus are learning it and claiming it as their own today. Jesus was a transformational leader. Now, there's loads of places in the Bible where I can sort of like pick on this, but I'm just going to pick on 4 or 5 because I've only got 20 minutes. But right from the very beginning, Jesus said to Simon Peter and Andrew his brother, I will make you fishers of men. So in Mark, Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee and he saw 2 brothers, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother. They were casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Then he said to them, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. They immediately left their nets and followed him. Now, I imagine that Jesus had a fair amount of gravitas, don't get me wrong. He was the Son of God. But nevertheless, right from day one, what he was saying to these fellows is, I am going to change you. If you leave what you do now and come with me, you are going to change. So right from the very beginning of their relationship, he was saying, I am a transformational leader. Second thing I'm going to mention is this, that Jesus taught people. He actively taught people. It says he taught them in parables for the start. Parables are great. They're little stories that Jesus made up that actually really take you down a road about the way thinking, yeah, that makes a lot of sense about the man that built his house upon sand and the house fell down because the storms came on it. That's a parable. Little bit of truth in a Jesus story 2,000 years ago. I mean, I love that sort of stuff because it makes me realise just how great and how intelligent is the God that we serve. Matthew 13 says this, the disciples came to Jesus and said, why do you tell stories? He replied, you've been given insight into God's kingdom. You know how it works. Not everybody has this gift, this insight. It hasn't been given to them. Whenever someone has a ready heart for this, the insights and understandings flow freely. But if there is no readiness, any trace of receptivity soon disappears. Listen to this. That is why I tell stories, to create readiness, to nudge people towards receptive insight. Jesus was deliberately teaching people. Jesus, it wasn't an accident. These people were not his slaves. They were not his servants. They were his disciples. And there's a huge difference between being a servant or a slave or an employee and being a disciple. And Jesus was saying there, no, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to nudge you towards better ways. Throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus' teaching. And it's great when the Bible gives you clear direction, isn't it? A good scripture to look at for this is Matthew 5 to 7. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. You know, if we all read this every month, there's so much truth in it, we'd all live a better life, or at least I would. Sermon on the Mount. Now, when I go through my Bible and just read the little headings that are there, so without going into the words of what it's talking about, but this is the little headings. Sermon on the Mount. Salt and light, our impact in the world. Dealing with anger. Dealing with lust. Divorce. The strength of our promise. Love your enemies and retaliation. Giving to the poor. How to pray. Where should our most precious treasures be kept? Dealing with anxiety. Judging others. God gives good things to his children. Having great foundations. This is just a Sermon on the Mount. There's actually more to it than that. Clearly, what Jesus is doing there, he is giving guidance. He is giving direction. Not just to the disciples, but to us 2,000 years on. The third thing where it's clear that Jesus was a transformational leader is he took these disciples from their various backgrounds, tax collectors and zealots and fishermen and doctors and whatever, and he took them and made them world beaters. He made them world changers. The disciples literally changed the world. The world that we live in would not look like this if it wasn't for them. Or Jesus, obviously. Now in Acts 2, Peter is addressing the crowd. Now this is after the Holy Spirit's come down, but it's after Jesus has gone. Peter stood up with the 11, raised his voice and addressed the crowd. Fellow Jews and all who live in Jerusalem, let me explain this to you. Listen carefully to what I say. And then he goes on to preach. He talks about Jesus. Now he preaches to these thousands of people. This is Peter, who is a fisherman. 3 years ago he was fishing on the Sea of Galilee, and now he's preaching to thousands of people. And we're not with thousands of people, because later in the same chapter it says, those who accepted his message were baptized. About 3,000 were added to their number that day. The logistics of that for a start, how do you baptize 3,000 people? There's only 11 of them. You know, it's incredible. Jesus took these people, he took these disciples, men and women actually, more than the 11, and he made them world changers. Number 4, the people that Jesus trained could and did succeed without his physical presence. This is important. You know what a bad leader does? They don't want you to be better than they are. They want to control you. A bad leader wants to make sure that you're never as good as they are. A bad leader wants to keep you down. A bad leader, when they go on holiday, they don't want you to manage. They want you to struggle. They want you to fail. A good leader thinks, you know what, we're on holiday, you're up to it. You're well trained, you know what you need to do, you're a good guy, a good girl, get on with it. Don't bother me, I know you'll make a good decision. And Jesus did that. He trained these guys and girls for 3 years, knowing that he wouldn't be there physically. And they changed the world. Jesus was a great transformational leader. But then number 5, servant leadership. This is an interesting one. And once again, we see gurus and experts of the world coming out with servant leadership like it's an original idea. If you look up servant leadership on Google, you get loads of hits from loads of people, and they've all got an opinion on it, and it's great, isn't it? Jesus was doing it 2,000 years ago, washing the disciples' feet. In John 13, it says, when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord. Clearly that is a relationship they had. And rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should also wash another's feet. I have set an example for you to do it. Simon Sinek again, he wrote a book called Leaders Eat Last. The premise of this is it's taken from US Marines. Now apparently US Marines, officers of rank, eat last. The concept being that they are servants to the lower ranks. The lower ranks eat first, and then gradually it works up until the officers eat. So now we've got to ask the question, why did the Son of God bother? Why did he bother to teach fishermen how to live? Why did he bother to teach fishermen how to change the world? Change them into world leaders, transform them into better versions of themselves. Why didn't he just have them as servants and slaves? He could have done that. He was a man with charisma. He could have done that. But no, he saw his task as being developing people, making disciples, influencing people, which is what we're here to do. He did it for the same reason he came to earth and lived and died. He did it because he loved them. He did it because he loves us. The love of Jesus is at the centre of all we believe as Christians. And that's one of the great things about Christianity. This is not a religion based upon fear. It's not a religion based upon rules and regulations. It's not a religion based upon hierarchy and authority. It's a religion. It's a love religion. It's not really a religion, is it? It's a relationship. And that's what sets Christianity aside. Because it's all about the love of Jesus. It's so wonderful. Oh, wonderful love. And that's what it's about. And that should be the centre of all we do. And we need to start to relearn this, or I do. Simon Sinek again recently in an interview I was watching him about servant leadership, and he compared leaders to parents. Now this is interesting. This is again leadership guru bringing out something new. He said this: a parent puts children first. This is when he's comparing leaders to parents. A parent puts children first and has passion for them to succeed. Why do they do that? Well, let me tell a little story again. A while ago I was preparing for a different message. It's years ago actually. But I was looking out my office window and there was a man teaching his son to ride a bike. The son was maybe 3 or 4 years old. And it was hot. The guy was there for 2 or 3 hours with the son. The son did gradually pick it up, but he certainly wasn't brilliant. But every time he fell down, the dad picked him up, dusted him off, put him back on the bike. He encouraged him, he motivated him, he taught him how to ride a bike. It's a small example. Why did the father do that? Does the father need the son to be able to ride a bike? No, definitely not. It's made no difference to the father whatsoever. It's made a difference to the son. The father knows if he can teach him that skill and other skills, but if he can teach him that skill, he'll teach him a skill he can use for the rest of his life. Keep him fit, have pleasure. Riding a bike is a great thing. There are loads of other examples. Parents teach kids how to live because they love them. And this is what Simon Sinek said. He says, it's because the parent loves the child. And Simon says, this is the passion a good leader has for his followers. He's talking about Jesus, but 2,000 years on. I don't know if Simon Sinek is a Christian, I have no idea. But he's clear in some of his teachings that he's read the Bible. So what about us? What do we learn? What legacy do we leave behind when we walk away from someone? How do we manage the interactions of our day? What do we expect from the relationships that we're in? What do others think of us? Because believe me, they do think about us. We are influencers. Am I a positive Christian force to be reckoned with? Or am I blown about with whatever's happening to me at any given minute? Well, first of all, don't beat yourself up. You know, if you feel you're falling short on that one, let me tell you, we all are. You're not on your own. So don't beat yourself up on that. But life is a journey. And on this journey that we're on of life, and on this journey we're on with a relationship with our transformational leader, Jesus Christ, unfortunately we learn but then unfortunately we forget. So we have to relearn it, and then we forget again. And today is a relearning day. It's a relearning day about the love of Jesus and how we can influence the people around us. How we can be salt that savours and a light on a hill. I want to be a better man. I do. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better son. I want to be a better leader, and I want to be a better follower. I want those interactions that I have throughout my day, big and small, to be great ones. I want to bring the love of Jesus into every situation, and that is hard to do. Because all the time it's rubbing off me, and I've got to keep putting it back in. I want my legacy, though, To those people I rub shoulders with to be positive. I want to be encouraging, I want to be developing, I want to be transforming, and I want to leave a little bit of Jesus with everybody that I spend time with. And that's something that I'd like to do, but I'll be honest, it's not something that I consistently do. So today is a day where I'm relearning something. Today, with me, make this a day of relearning. Put the love of Jesus in the centre of our relationships. Not what that person can do for you, but what you can do for them. Put the love of Jesus at the centre of our lives. And that includes all those small interactions, all those small connections, and the big ones, of course, as well. I'd like to leave us with a challenge this week. With me, every day this week, pray for the love of Jesus to be in our lives. Pray to be a transformational servant, ambassador for Jesus. Lord, help us all to be enabled in normal situations to leave a legacy of Christ. Let's make that commitment every day this week to pray that. And give us opportunities, Lord, in the interactions that we have to be good leaders and good influencers. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.